Hey there, art nerds. Remember when I bought some watercolors off of Temu? Well, today is the day we're finally going to unbox, swatch them, and talk about their quality. So I hope you guys are looking forward to a 3-in-1 watercolor review today.
Becca here. So Maddie shared this in my Discord server about Temu. I almost said Shein. So we're going to click through. I've already read it, but it's some concerning information about Temu that I wanted to share with you guys. I can't verify whether it is true or not, but I do think in instances like this, an overabundance of caution, especially for a site that we really don't need to shop at, like Temu, is important. So according to this user here on Twitter, let me know if any of you guys can find a more verifiable source and more official source. It reads, from June 22nd, a super discount EC site like Shein called Temu will be launched in Japan. Temu pulls out personal information such as photos, emails, and call records from the user's smartphone from the moment the app is downloaded. In the future, influencers will invest a lot of money to advertise and spread the word, so be careful. And then there's a little bit more. I'm going to click here to translate. It has also been reported that personal information continues to be extracted even after deleting the app. In the United States, Shein and Temu have been viewed as a problem, so a law will be enacted to abolish tax exemption for all packages from China and Russia. So Chinese EC sites will be virtually shut out of the US market. It is quite natural that the target of the Chinese e-commerce site, which is deprived of the market, will be the Japanese market where there are no regulations. And then they also have a YouTube link, which not gonna click it because I'm not 100% on the source, as well as the screen caps, which unfortunately would be a little bit more challenging for me to translate. So I am not saying this is 100% true, but since we're about to look at some Temu watercolors, and I said a few times that I didn't necessarily think Temu was a scam, if they are engaging in this behavior, it is most certainly a scam. And I would highly encourage you, if you have not used Temu yet, don't bother. You're not missing out, I promise. And if you already have it on your phone, I am really, really sorry. I'm not super sure what to do about that. When I was buying from Temu, I did not download the app because, frankly, dealing with AliExpress products and watching like S'mores and Atomic Shrimp and Big Clive, I know that sometimes products from those kind of sites are way too good to be true and can infect your computer with malware. So I never downloaded the Temu app because, just trying to be cautious. I only ever used it on a desktop, but I may still have made myself vulnerable since obviously I also put in my home address and my mailing information. So I wanted to give you guys a heads up about this way early on so that none of you guys are burned.
Hey guys, so today I am talking about the 3 watercolor sets that I purchased from Temu. You guys probably saw me unbox them. Now we're going to take a look at them, and I'm probably going to go through all 3 of these very quickly because I really don't have high hopes for them, but I figured it'd be kind of a nice bookend to the Student Grade Showdown. So we have a Boyix 36 color set. We have a Who Made You? I don't know, Watercolor Artist Decor 48 colors, except then over here it says 36 colors in 1/2 of a Godet, so who even knows? And then we have the Who Made You? Why is it so hard to find out who made what with these? I don't know. This is a 36 solid color portable watercolor set. I think this is the Tavalozza, so this is just the 3rd, maybe even unnamed watercolor set. And all 3 of these came from Temu. So if you're new here, hi, hello, welcome. I'm Becca Hilburn. I make the watercolor comic 7-Inch Kara, which you can and should read at 7inchkara.com. As a comic artist, I spend a lot of time drawing and painting, and it requires me to be able to draw and paint a lot of things. And to be really blunt, comics just don't get the love and respect that they deserve. So if you enjoy my art, it would really mean a lot to me if you would go check it out. You can read it for free, or you can own it in the dead tree format. And if you like my work and you want to help me out, but you are on a budget or you can't afford to spend any money, you can fill out a library request form for Volume 1 and Volume 2 at your local library. That helps me sell some books. That means your library gets copies of the books. So it is win-win for hopefully everyone, because if you don't support comic artists, they disappear. So I'm going to start with the Boyix set, because why not? And it is shrink wrapped. Two of these sets are shrink wrapped. The third one is not. I am not advocating that you buy from Temu. I don't have any kind of partnership with Temu. This was purchased out of my own pocket. I'm not saying they're a scam. I'm not saying they aren't. This is going to be as unbiased a review as I can possibly do, but I'll be real, I don't really have super high hopes for these. I do frequently review art supplies from AliExpress though, and have had better results with that. So if you are genuinely looking for good art supplies from outside of the US, that might be a way to, a place to check. So this set has 36 colors, watercolor cakes, 1 nylon brush pin, 1 water brush, 1 drawing pencil, and 10 sheets of wood pulp watercolor paper. And Boyixon, watercolor cakes are made of colorful pigments, which make the color get more colorful and better effects. Using wet brush tip paint on the watercolor cakes, then it is easy to paint on the paper. And it has an absorbent sponge and water brush, and it is for not to 3 sad onions. So it is packed in a cardboard box, and inside is just gonna toss it. Inside is our watercolor palette. Let me move these other palettes off camera, or as off camera as I can get. We'll take a look inside. Oh yeah, these look really bad. They look like chalk. They look like Skittles. They look terrible. Who is surprised? So we have our water brush. We have a really cheap nylon brush. We have a pencil. We have a pencil sharpener, our sponge, our eraser, and then our 36 colors. We also have our paper over here. So I'm going to set this aside. Next is our Tavalozza Watercolor Palette. It is also, as you guys can see, shrink wrapped, because we need more plastic waste on the surface of the planet. That's never gonna degrade, but it will break up into microplastics. That'll be in our bloodstream forever. So it's it looks like it is either in Spanish or Portuguese. Unfortunately, I can't read either of those, so I am sure someone will be generous in the comments and let me know what the back of the box says. Go ahead and open this one. It comes in a plastic palette. Nothing else seems to be inside the box, so into the garbage can it goes. So slightly better, still not great. And it comes with a palette that kind of removes like this, I guess, for easy cleaning, but it doesn't attach to anything. And these are in a inexpensive plastic liner, very similar to the other set, with the sponge, the water brush, and then a very cheap paintbrush. And then finally, our solid watercolor portable, 36 colors. This one's a little bit heavier, The back of the box has instructions on filling the water brush. Bottled ink available for recycling usage. Instructions: rotate in a negative direction to remove the transparent pin cover and rotate the pin cover according to the direction of the arrow till tight after the pin barrel is fulfilled with ink. Water method: gently press the bottom of the pen barrel to extrude the ink according to the method shown in the figure. Original pen nib imported from Taiwan. Soft brush, water-soluble lead color, solid watercolors. Convenient to carry for sketch out, suitable for beginners or professionals to use, available to add ink at any time. All of that sounds like BS to me. It sounds like translation errors. This is also a plastic palette. It looks a lot like the Tavalozza palette. So with this palette, they're actually individual half pans. There's a bit of a smell coming from it. We have our 2 water brushes, we have our 2 sponges, we have a mixing palette, and then there are divots on the lid for mixing as well. So I do not have high hopes, I guess. I don't have hopes anymore. I'm a comic artist. We've all been reading comics, broke me. I don't have hopes anymore. My dreams are all dead and buried. These palettes look a lot alike. I don't really have high hopes for any of these. That wasn't really the point. So I am going to swatch them on Blick Studio Cotton Rag watercolor paper, but I'm probably mostly just going to be doing swatches. These are really low grade, student grade watercolors. Some of them are even lower than student grade. And I really am not endorsing these. I don't think they're going to be great. I really just kind of wanted to see what Temu had in terms of watercolor supplies. So for today's review, we're going to do things a little bit differently than we normally do. I am just going to swatch the colors. I don't really plan on doing a lot of color mixing. I don't necessarily plan on doing the wet and wet test. Like I said, I can tell from a year of swatching over 50 brands of inexpensive watercolors that these are not going to be super great and that I'm not going to be able to recommend them. But I do want to be able to see how they handle to just kind of know how bad they're going to be. So if you enjoy content like this, if you find it helpful, useful, amusing, what have you, it would really mean a lot to me and be a huge help if you join me over on Patreon at patreon.com/natosoup, because otherwise, I really don't make any money at all doing this, and this is mostly just an expensive hobby that I share with the world. So any support you can share is much appreciated, and it allows me to continue to do reviews like this one or like our initial Temu unboxing. And by the way, just to reassure you guys, I have absolutely no intention of shopping with Temu again. It was a one-time thing, but I did want to kind of finish off what I purchased, reviewing it so that you guys could see. So I'm going to be swatching on this paper here. I'm going to go get a cup of clean water and a couple of watercolor brushes. Yes, they do all come with water brushes. I honestly don't like water brushes too much. I know some artists can do beautiful work with them. I just kind of struggle to utilize them myself. So rather than allow my frustrations with water brushes to cloud my feelings about these watercolors, I'm going to try to be fair, and I'm going to go use a watercolor brush that I use all the time and I happen to like. We're going to do this in unboxing order. So we're going to start with the Boyix palette, then we're going to move to the Tavalozza, and then we're going to move on to the unbranded palette. Now, since these watercolors look like they're basically chalk and probably have the same painting properties as Sweet Tarts or Pez, I'm not going to do the big gradiated swatches. I'm just going to do individual swatches with these. All right, don't get me wrong. These are bad, but they're not as bad as I thought they would be. And some of you guys have expressed an interest in seeing me paint with watercolors I really don't like. This might be that palette, because while it's bad in a way I kind of know how to work around. So we might see this palette again. Now, of course, everything's very pastel, everything's very chalky. I mean, look at these paints. They look like Pez candies. They look like something you'd get in your Halloween bag. They're not really meant to be watercolors. Not truly. The brush they came with is a small, very cheap, very flimsy feeling nylon brush. Not really a lot to say about it. I'll go ahead and swatch with it just so that you guys can see. Just super, super cheap. This is one of those like all-inclusive sets because it did come with cellulose paper that somebody might buy and give as a gift because, oh, hey, look, it's everything all in one. It's not great. Not great. Not a good set. Someone who's really very talented and is basically like a garbage art supply vendor could probably make something pretty out of it, but it's very frustrating and they don't really handle the way watercolors should. The water brush is fine. Super standard, super cheap water brush. I'll probably hold on to this, not because I like them, but because these are all basically the same unless they like epically fail. And some of my students like them, so maybe I'll give it to one of them. The pencil looks pretty cheap, feels pretty cheap. The sharpener, at least it's metal. I'll give it that. Feels like a magnesium sharpener. Kind of reminds me of my Coombe sharpeners. I mean, you can catastrophically fail with a sharpener. I think this one is fine. I don't use the little scrubber sponges in these kind of palettes. They're really meant for you to scrub off your water brush. And then there is also an eraser. This really reminds me of the Grabby set, just not quite as bad as the Grabby set. They call this a foam eraser. It's probably fine. It's like a very soft vinyl eraser. So this set, not great. Are you going to encounter it in a brick and mortar store in the US? I really hope not. Hopefully they're buying better than this. I would not recommend it if you're getting it on Temu. Skip this one. This is not good. You guys might see it again another time. Let me know in the comments if this is the palette you guys want to see me actually try to paint a piece of art with at some point in the future. All right, next watercolor palette on the pile is the Tavalozza. So it comes in a plastic palette. Some of the colors have already migrated since. This is a, oh man, I think it's a 36 color palette, or at least that's what the thing said. It's 12 sets of 4, so if the math, that would be 36 colors. It has a very, very, very cheap watercolor brush in it. It has a water brush that is surprisingly just like the Boyix brush we just took a look at. It does not come with a pencil or an eraser, and it has the same cheap yellow sponge. It is also in this inexpensive plastic tray. I think what is happening is they sell the palettes as empties, and Tavalozza bought the palette and just put their own paints in it. You do see that from time to time. This is a pretty cheap way to go about doing it. I am cheap, and I'm going to use the same watercolor sheet that I used for the other one because cotton rag paper is kind of expensive, and I feel like it'd be kind of wasteful to dedicate an entire sheet to each of these. What I am going to do though, part of me was like, I'm going to do opacity testing. And then I'm like, oh no, cheap student grade watercolor paints will often make Copic marker react really, really, really poorly, and it can make it really hard to see what the colors are. So I think I am just going to swatch the colors as they are, similar to what we did up here. It is going to be harder to see the opacity. I apologize for that. But I do think them having a chemical reaction with the Copic would also make it very hard to judge the colors. So, a half dozen of one, 6 of the other. The Tavalozza set really kind of puts me in mind of like that cool bank 99 color set that I reviewed way at the top of the student grade showdown. This isn't the worst palette I've reviewed because I have reviewed some like really atrocious watercolor palettes that are just like hilariously awful, but it's also very not good, and I would not really recommend it to you guys. And it definitely seems like it's a very cheap dye-based watercolor. There's definitely going to be better options out there. Are either of these sets so far what I would call a scam? No. They're pretty indicative of the price point, and they're pretty, I kind of knew what I was getting into, as you guys probably could tell from the start of the video. I wouldn't call it a scam, but I also have a lot of experience, unfortunately, at this point with really cheap, garbagey watercolors. So like, it would be hard for this to trick me. I can't honestly tell you whether like one of my younger audience members or one of my art squad teenagers, if they were on Temu, if they would think this is a good deal or not and then feel like they got scammed. Let me know, I guess, down in the comments. And I bring this up because I'm seeing a lot of people referring to Temu as a scam, or, you know, their clickbait title is like, is Temu a scam? And it's like, I mean, it really kind of depends on how we're defining scam. And I would say it's about in the same category as Wish. You know, like some things are just going to be too good to be true, so you shouldn't expect them to be true. And that's definitely the case with these palettes. They're about what I thought they were going to be. So I am going to move this third one out of the way. I am going to refresh my water because it looks like chocolate milk. And now we're going to move on to our final palette, this little 24 color palette here. This is the only one that came in its own individual half pans. This one came with 2 water brushes. It didn't come with any traditional watercolor brush, and it came with 2 sponges, and it came super dusty. Like look how dusty and nasty this thing looks. This is also the only one that wasn't shrink wrap, so maybe that explains some of the dust. Alright, so our third unnamed palette is really similar to the Tavalozza palette. Maybe there's a little bit more color saturation. Maybe there's some granulation going on, especially like over here. But I would put my money that this is yet another dye-based palette. So we just finished swatching 3 palettes from Temu. I don't need to do color mixing to tell you guys these are not good. I don't need to do wet into wet to tell you guys these are not good. They are not the worst palettes I have reviewed, because I have reviewed some really embarrassingly bad palettes, but they are also not worth your time and effort going to Temu and ordering these. So for this palette here, the Boyix Palette, it is a 36 color solid watercolor paint with tap water pen watercolor brush drawing in the color layout of Blue Love. I paid $11.48 for this, so no one is surprised that this is pretty terrible. For this larger 48 Vivid Rich Colors watercolor paint set, perfect for kids, adults, hobbyists, and this is in children and adults, I paid $17.48. And then for this set over here, Vibrant Watercolor Paint Set, 12, 24, 36 colors in a portable box, perfect for ... And this is the 36 color solid watercolor set. I paid $15.48. So all of these were super cheap. They all perform like they're super cheap. Do not recommend these. If you guys are looking for some affordable watercolors that you're actually going to enjoy using and are not going to fall apart when you add water, I have a whole student grade showdown playlist that I think you guys will enjoy. But you can also check the description down below. I'll list out some of my favorites for you guys and link the videos so that you guys can check them out and hopefully find some watercolors that you really enjoy. Now, if you are using these palettes or similar palettes, am I calling you a bad artist? Absolutely not. In fact, I'd love to see what you would do with a better palette because I bet you would blow your own socks off. Am I saying you are any less of an artist for using palettes like this to get started? No, absolutely not. I do hope you're not selling your art made with palettes like these because, like, let's be real, the light fastness is probably like 5 minutes, you know? But if you are just painting for fun, painting for enjoyment, maybe practicing some skills with these, they're probably okay for that, but not necessarily what I would recommend. And I don't necessarily think they're worth the price of admission, especially when you can check out one of the palettes that I'm going to recommend down in the description and have so much more fun with those. You're going to enjoy them so much more than these very weak sauce dye-based watercolor palettes. So do I think these were a scam? No, I don't. I think they were about worth what I paid for them. Would I spend my money on them again? Absolutely not. I do think it was kind of a waste of money because, I mean, these are watercolors I'm not really going to use and that are not going to bring me much enjoyment. And, like, best case scenario, I donate them to someone, but then they are someone else's problem. So I'll figure out something to do with them, some use to put them with. I don't mind sending them on to another artist who knows they're not great quality watercolors and can make the decision for themselves. I just wouldn't want to, like, donate them to Goodwill and someone unwittingly getting them and then really, really not liking them or not liking the art that they make or putting a lot of time into something only for it to fall apart over like 6 months, you know? So that's kind of like the moral quandary I'm always in when it comes to these cheap art supplies is like, okay, what do we do with this? I don't want to make my problem somebody else's problem, and we've got a whole lot of plastic waste going on here. But I'm hoping that if I could just stop 10 of you from buying these and encourage 10 of you to buy a watercolor palette that you're going to like better, then I've already done a good deed. And if I could encourage more of you to avoid these, that would be fantastic as well. So you can definitely watch the original Temu video and see all this other stuff that I ordered and hear my thoughts on that. But I wanted to just show you guys the palettes that we literally just talked about. And I'll go ahead and just click through them just as like a little refresher for you guys. So obviously, I was not deceived. It looks like what it looks like. There are plenty of photos. This might be a little bit false advertising. I think this is already dry watercolor, and I think this is an empty brush, and they're just pretending to put the watercolor on there. But, like, and also I think they spritz this with water to make it look a little bit more glossy, because as you guys remember, the ones that I had were dry and very pastel, and they looked very chalky. So, I mean, or maybe they put like Vaseline on them or something like that to make it look a little bit better. But I can't really say like, oh, I was deceived, this was a lie, because it about looks like what I got. And I mean, now it's even cheaper now. It's $9.19, so I guess they got some people on the hook for this one. Are there any reviews? Interest is comic. Well, y'all, I'm a comic artist, and I say avoid this. Yeah, no reviews for this. So I don't really think Temu does reviews. Then we have the 48 Vivid Rich Colors watercolor paint set. Sorry, these names like always trip me up. I could have gotten it much cheaper if only I jumped on the wagon when a bunch of other people were buying this, because now it's $13.48. Please don't buy this, y'all. It about looks like what I got. They include the measurements. Obviously, I don't believe this art was painted with this watercolor set. I just don't. Or the flower there, don't think so now. Or this is so clearly photoshopped. This is pathetic. It's like they took somebody else's photo, maybe from like their YouTube channel. But then again, this brush is the same. I don't know about this brush. That brush is looking a little photoshoppy too. This is definitely photoshopped into the photo though. Okay, so we have shop reviews and then we have one item review. I haven't used this yet. It looks nice though. I'm glad it arrived without getting broke. And they gave it 5 stars. Y'all, don't review things until you've had a chance to actually use them. Other than that, not much going on. So what did I pay? I paid like $19 for this. This is not worth $19, not by a long shot. It's also, I would not recommend getting it at all for any price. I would recommend you putting that money towards something that's going to make you happier. But, and the, did y'all see that? Sorry if my screaming scared y'all. Did y'all see that? I paid $15. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. It's $6.29 now. Is it? It might be worth $6.29. It might be worth that, because like you can go to Dollar Tree and get the water brush, these kind of water brushes. In fact, these are different from the water brushes that are in my kit, because my kit has the little orange cap ones, but they all function about the same. I would almost say for $6.29 you could gut this set, get rid of the, because it's in individual half pans, so you could refill these and that would be worth about $6. Sure. Oh wait, okay, all right, so there's the 12 set. That is $6.29. This is the 24 set, and it's going for $8.99. And then this is $11.69. I don't really feel like you're getting much of a deal for this. So I would not even recommend it for gutting it. And then, do I feel like I got scammed? So, as I mentioned in some of my AliExpress videos, when I don't ever actually think the art they show with the illustration for these kind of products was actually made with these products. I think it's like aspirational. It's meant to be an idea. I do think it's a little deceptive to show that, because it's going to lead people to think they could do that with these paints. And I do not think you're going to get this color saturation with these chalky chalk paints. I'm looking at my swatches, and that is just going to be a no. So I do think that's actually a bit deceptive, and I wish they would actually paint something with the, oh look, now they have the brushes that I have. I wish they would paint something with the paints themselves, and maybe even show someone, like, I am a nerd, I want to see like a quick demonstration of the person doing it, because maybe they're doing something that I'm not aware of. Maybe I could learn something from it, but I don't think they painted those butterflies with this. I don't think they painted the front of the box with this. If I could just reach out to this 129 people and be like, yeah, don't. So Kayla Johnson loved this set. And C*****3 gave it 4 stars. They purchased the set for a little under $19. Cons: case does not latch close very well. Without the tray, it seems to close fine, but with the tray and a swatch color sheet, it does not fully close and has a slight gap. Yeah, I could see that. Pros: love the little indent sections to keep colors separated if desired. Do they mean the wells, like the mixing surfaces? That's actually something that kind of drew me to this set as well, were the mixing surfaces and the removable lid. I thought that was kind of neat. I was so glad I finally found a travel set that used half pans. This lets you replace colors and customize so much easier. Many travel sets with sponge and water brush cannot be customized. I kind of wonder where they're looking, because I have reviewed so many travel sets that do let you customize it. I was pleasantly surprised that even a standard water brush size would fit as well. Photos showing me replacing a half pan and water brush paint. I was pleased with the variety of colors in this set overall. A few look really similar even after drying, depending on how much water is used. Their swatches look a little more saturated than mine do. They're also using a different brush than what was included in the set, so they might have had a better experience with it or scraped up more pigment with it. Overall, they're really happy with this purchase on sale. The only thing that disappointed them is the case doesn't stay closed properly, so they'll have to use an elastic. And their biggest worry is being able to swap the paint, and it works exactly as I hoped. Well, I'm really glad that they're very happy with it. So that goes to show you guys, like, we can have differing opinions. But I have, like, I'm all caught on the, like, many travel sets. I'm like, I have reviewed so many travel sets, and there are some that don't. Like, Soccer Koi doesn't, and some versions of the Mandolin pigments don't. But a lot of sets do, so now I'm curious. That's the, like, nosy, over-involved big sister in me wants to reach out and be like, let me help you. And Fractious Cat bought this for their granddaughter, who's 11, learning how to use watercolors. Definitely a step up from her prank, I think they mean praying set. I've used watercolors for years, and this is not a bad set at all. Yes, colors are a little chalky if you do not dilute them, If you do not dilute them enough, definitely for sure wash it. She loves it. Goes great with her little watercolor book that I bought. I'm glad her 11-year-old enjoys this set. There's the Mei Liang. Okay, all right, okay. If this is a real Mei Liang set, I would recommend Mei Liang over any of the 3 sets we just talked about, whether you get it from your brick and mortar, you get it on Amazon, you get it from AliExpress, you get it here. I would recommend this palette here over any of the palettes we looked at today. Those of you who have watched my Mei Liang review, you guys know mine did not come with the individual half pans that are removable. It came with like the cheap plastic liner, like 2 of the palettes we looked at today. But if you got this set and it looked like this here and not like the one I have, then you can move these half pans around. You can replace them with your own half pans. You can refill them with your own paints. See, this is what mine looks like. So this is not the paints are nice. Mei Liang is Paul Rubens student grade, and I happen to really like it. It's what I would recommend to an 11-year-old artist. I have no association with them whatsoever. They just did really well. Did they paint the parrot with it? Quite possibly, because I used my Mei Liang set to paint something with really, really vivid colors with lots of layers and wet and wet, and I was really happy with how it turned out, so I could see that happening. And then this is a Paul Rubens brush, so I believe it. I buy the hype, but this is what I would recommend, hands down, over any of the 3 sets that we took a look at today. So I don't recommend you shop on Temu. I feel like it's very similar to Wish, and if you are looking for these types of budget art supplies, I would just get them from AliExpress rather than Temu. I don't like the shifting price points. I find that to be frustrating. I would rather have coupons or like work towards getting free shipping than like trying to jump on the bandwagon while everybody else is jumping on the bandwagon. That is way too much coordination for this ADHD gal who has like 3 friends. But like I said, I would recommend AliExpress over Temu, but I don't feel like it's a scam. I don't really feel like I was lied to. I don't really feel like any of these products were not what the pictures showed them to be. Now, I have a lot of experience with inexpensive watercolors, so I really know what I'm looking at and what I'm looking for. So it's much harder to dupe me. Like, you would have to legitimately switch out the photos and scam me to scam me. So my friends who are newer to watercolor and have not reviewed 1,000 garbage watercolor palettes, let me know if you guys would have been tricked, would have been expecting a better palette, would have been expecting better results. Let me know, give me some perspective, help me touch some grass, because like, while I don't like these palettes and I'm not recommending these palettes, and in fact I recommend the Mei Liang Pigments palette over these hands down, I also don't feel like I got scammed, and I feel like I maybe overpaid for them, but I don't feel like I got like taken for a ride. All three utilize dyes instead of pigments. Who's surprised at this price point? These look like chalk. They look like children's grade watercolors. They actually handled a little bit better than I expected they would because my expectations were on the floor. I was expecting like the King Art Studio level of like, these two palettes over here are about what I expected, kind of Cool Bank or Artie Box level of watercolors, like not great, very dye-based. Some people will enjoy painting with these. Some people are going to want kind of like the Radiant watercolor dye-based watercolor, but in a convenient half pan form. That is fine. If you're a brush letterer, you might like these kind of paints. If you are doing card making, you might like these kind of paints. If you don't want granulation in your work, you might like these kind of paints. If you don't care if everything fades in 6 months, you might like these kind of paints. I can see there being an audience for them. My big thing is there's better out there for about the same price. So why spend your money on these when you could get the better and just be slightly happier with what you got? So just a quick reminder, reviews like this are only made possible thanks to my patrons on Patreon. You can join their hallowed ranks and get early access to reviews like this one at patreon.com/natosoup. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. What did you guys think of these three palettes from Temu? Were you impressed with the quality? Were you disappointed? Did you feel like I got scammed? Or did you figure I about got what I paid for and what we figured was going to happen? I have to tell you guys, this is about what I thought was going to happen. And I wasn't like particularly impressed or excited by these palettes. In fact, the only reason I decided to do them was because I have this like need, it's Pokemon drove this. I have this need to review or catch them all. It's the completionist in me. And I felt like I couldn't in good conscience say that I really tried a huge swath of different watercolors if I didn't at least take a look at stuff like this. But I also didn't figure it was worth dedicating an individual review to each of them or even an individual sheet of paper to each of them. So hopefully you found today's review to be helpful, useful, and informative, and hopefully you'll consider sticking around. I promise it's not always this noisy. I don't know, I'm just a jinx. I go outside and everybody wants to be doing something. But hopefully you guys will stick around, click the subscribe button and hit the bell notification to let YouTube know that you want to see more from me. I update twice a week, generally on Tuesdays and Sundays now. So keep an eye out from that. You should see something from me every week unless something has happened. And with the way my life is going, that is increasingly likely. So we'll see. Anyway, I hope to see you guys again really soon with another art supply review, tutorial, or maybe even an art chat. So if you are new here, I know we talked about this earlier, but I want to remind you guys that I have a watercolor comic that you can read at 7inchcara.com, or you can own print versions of Volume 1 and Volume 2. You can get those at the Natto Shop at nattosoup.com/shop. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you guys again soon. Bye, guys!